There is a hidden strength that most people never discover in their entire lives. It is not loud. It does not scream for attention. It does not fight every battle. It simply stays still, silent, and unshaken. That strength is a calm mind. The first step toward mastering a calm mind begins with learning how to stop reacting to everything around you. In daily life, countless situations try to pull your attention and trigger your emotions. People may speak without thinking. Situations may not go as planned, and unexpected problems may appear at any moment. Most people immediately respond to these moments with anger, frustration, worry, or overthinking. They believe that reacting quickly means they are strong or aware. But in reality, constant reaction is what slowly weakens the mind and disturbs inner peace. When you react to everything, you give external events the power to control your internal state, and this is where stress begins to grow silently. Inside you, stopping reaction does not mean becoming careless or ignoring life. It means creating a gap between what happens and how you respond. That small gap is where true strength develops. Instead of instantly reacting, you pause for a moment. In that pause, you observe what is happening without judgment. You allow yourself to understand the situation clearly before deciding whether it even deserves your energy. This simple shift changes everything, because most emotional reactions are not based on logic, but on impulse. And impulse often leads to regret. When you stop reacting immediately, you start noticing patterns in your behavior. You realize that many things you used to react to were not as serious as they felt in the moment. A harsh comment from someone, a delay in plans, or a misunderstanding may feel powerful at first, but with a calm mind, you begin to see their temporary nature. Everything in life is constantly changing, and when you stop reacting, you align yourself with this natural flow instead of resisting it. A person who reacts less begins to feel more in control of their life. Not because the world changes, but because their internal response changes. The same situation that once created stress no longer has the same effect. This is because stress is not created by events themselves, but by the meaning and reaction we attach to them. When reaction decreases, emotional pressure also decreases, and mental clarity starts to grow. Stopping reaction also protects your energy. Every emotional response consumes mental strength. When you react to everything, you slowly drain your focus, patience, and peace. But when you choose not to react, you preserve that energy for things that actually matter in your life. You become more thoughtful, more stable, and more aware of your decisions. Instead of living in emotional chaos, you start living with balance and awareness. This practice also teaches emotional independence. You stop depending on how others behave to determine your mood. Someone can be rude, disrespectful, or negative, but your inner state remains untouched because you are no longer controlled by external behavior. This is a powerful transformation because it shifts your life from reaction-based living to awareness-based living. You no longer feel like a victim of circumstances, but instead become an observer who chooses response wisely over time. Stopping reaction builds inner discipline. It strengthens your ability to stay calm even in difficult situations. At first, it may feel challenging because the habit of reacting is deeply rooted. But with practice, silence becomes your strength. You begin to realize that not every battle needs your involvement. Not every opinion deserves your attention, and not every moment requires your response. As this mindset grows, life feels lighter. Emotional weight reduces, mental noise decreases, and a deeper sense of stability begins to form within you. You start moving through life with clarity instead of confusion, With patience instead of urgency, and with awareness instead of impulse, choosing silence over unnecessary arguments is one of the most powerful habits a person can develop in life. In many situations, people feel the urge to defend themselves, prove their point, or win every conversation. They believe that speaking more, explaining more, or arguing harder will bring respect or clarity, but often it only leads to more stress, misunderstanding, and emotional exhaustion. Silence, on the other hand, is not weakness. It is a sign of maturity, self-control, and inner strength. When you choose silence, you are not losing a battle. You are deciding that the battle is not worth fighting. Many arguments begin from small misunderstandings, ego clashes, or emotional reactions in the heat of the moment. If you respond immediately, the situation can quickly escalate, turning a small issue into a bigger conflict. But when you pause and remain silent, you break that cycle. You give space for emotions to settle, and for clarity to return. Silence allows you to think instead of react. In arguments, people often stop listening and start preparing their next response. This creates a cycle where no one truly understands the other. But when you choose silence, you step out of that cycle. You observe instead of attack. You listen instead of defend. And in that space, you gain a deeper understanding of the situation and the people involved. There is also a hidden strength in silence that most people underestimate. When you do not respond to every provocation, you take away the power of negativity. Some people argue not to find truth, but to provoke reaction. If you engage with them emotionally, you give them control over your peace. But if you remain silent, their words lose impact. Your silence becomes a shield that protects your mental state. Silence also protects relationships. Not every disagreement needs to turn into a heated argument. Sometimes, words spoken in anger can damage connections that took years to build. When you choose silence, you prevent unnecessary damage. You allow time for emotions to calm down so that your communication can happen in a healthier way later. Many misunderstandings resolve naturally when not fueled by immediate reaction. At a deeper level, silence teaches self-respect. It shows that you value your peace more than the need to prove yourself right. Not every opinion needs correction, and not every statement needs a reply. When you stop trying to win every argument, you start winning something more important: inner peace. You realize that being right is not always more important than being calm. Silence also strengthens emotional intelligence. It trains your mind to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting emotionally. Over time, you begin to understand when to speak and when to stay quiet. This awareness gives you control over situations that once used to control you. Instead of being pulled into every conflict, you become selective with your energy and attention. In many cases, silence communicates more than words ever could. A calm response or no response at all can express confidence, maturity, and stability. People eventually begin to understand that you are not easily disturbed, and this changes how they interact with you. They become more respectful because they sense your emotional control. Choosing silence does not mean suppressing your thoughts. It means choosing the right moment and the right situation to express them. It is about understanding that not every thought deserves immediate expression, and not every disagreement deserves your energy. This awareness brings a sense of freedom because you are no longer trapped in constant verbal battles. Over time, silence becomes a natural habit. You stop feeling the need to explain yourself unnecessarily. You stop reacting to every comment. You stop entering every argument. Instead, you conserve your energy for meaningful conversations and important decisions. Life becomes calmer, thoughts become clearer, and emotional balance becomes stronger. Controlling your emotions before they control you is one of the deepest forms of inner strength a human being can develop in life. Most people believe that emotions are something they must immediately act upon. But in reality, emotions are only temporary signals passing through the mind. They rise quickly, feel powerful, and often push a person toward instant reactions. But if you observe carefully, you will notice that emotions are not permanent states. They are like waves in the ocean, constantly changing, sometimes calm and sometimes intense, yet always moving. The real challenge is not to stop emotions from appearing, but to prevent them from taking control over your decisions, your words, and your behavior in moments of pressure or confusion. When emotions are not controlled, they become the decision maker of your life. Anger can make you speak words you never intended. Sadness can push you into isolation. Fear can stop you from taking important steps forward. Overthinking can create problems that do not even exist in reality. In these moments, the emotional mind takes over the logical mind, and once that happens, clarity disappears. Many regrets in life come not from situations themselves, but from actions taken under uncontrolled emotional states. Learning to control emotions begins with awareness. Instead of immediately reacting to what you feel, you start noticing it. You recognize that a feeling is arising within you, but you do not become it. For example, when anger appears, instead of becoming angry, you observe that anger is present. This small shift creates distance between you and the emotion. In that distance, control is born. Without awareness, emotions feel like commands. With awareness, they become signals that you can understand. Without obeying, another important part of emotional control is pause. A simple pause before reacting can completely change the outcome of a situation. In that pause, your mind gets time to settle, your breathing slows down, and your perspective becomes clearer. Most emotional damage happens in the first few seconds of reaction, when the mind is at its most unstable point. But if you learn to delay that reaction even slightly, you begin to regain power over yourself. Instead of handing it away to temporary feelings, it is also important to understand that controlling emotions does not mean suppressing them. Suppression creates pressure inside the mind, but control means expression with awareness. You allow yourself to feel, but you choose how and when to respond. This difference is powerful because suppressed emotions eventually explode, while controlled emotions transform into understanding and maturity. A person who controls emotions does not become emotionless. Instead, they become stable even in emotional situations. Life constantly tests emotional control through unexpected events, difficult people, and uncomfortable situations. In these moments, your true strength is revealed not by how loudly you react, but by how calmly you respond. Emotional control is not about avoiding challenges, but facing them without losing inner balance. It is about staying grounded, even when everything around you feels unstable. The more you practice this, the more your mind begins to trust your ability to handle pressure without being overwhelmed over time. Emotional control builds a strong inner foundation. You stop being easily disturbed by external opinions or temporary situations. You become less reactive and more thoughtful. Your decisions improve because they are no longer driven by momentary feelings, but by awareness and understanding. Even in difficult situations, your mind begins to stay centered, observing instead of collapsing into emotional chaoses. This inner strength develops further. You start realizing that not every emotion needs to be expressed immediately. Not every feeling needs action. Not every impulse deserves attention. And slowly the mind learns to remain steady, even when emotions try to pull it in different directions, creating a deeper sense of stability that continues growing within, shaping the way thoughts flow and responses form in everyday experiences. Not every situation deserves your energy, and understanding this truth is one of the most important steps toward building a calm and powerful mind. Many people go through life feeling mentally exhausted, not because their problems are too big, but because they give attention to everything that comes their way. They react to every comment, worry about every small issue, and try to fix every situation, even when it is not necessary. This constant over-involvement drains mental strength and creates unnecessary stress that slowly builds up inside the mind. Energy is not just physical, it is emotional and mental as well. Every time you think deeply about something, react to something, or emotionally engage with something, you are spending your energy. If this energy is spent wisely, it leads to growth, clarity, and progress. But when it is wasted on unimportant situations, it leads to exhaustion, confusion, and emotional instability. The problem is that most people do not realize what truly deserves their energy and what does not. So they treat everything as equally important, which creates imbalance in their inner world. When you begin to understand that not every situation deserves your reaction, you start to gain control over your attention. Attention is powerful because whatever you focus on grows in your mind. If you focus on negativity, it becomes stronger. If you focus on unnecessary arguments, they become more stressful. But if you learn to ignore situations that do not add value to your life, your mind becomes clearer and more peaceful. This is not avoidance, it is awareness. It is choosing where your energy should go instead of letting everything pull you in different directions. Many situations in life are temporary and do not require emotional involvement. A rude comment, a misunderstanding, a delay, or someone's opinion often feels important in the moment, but loses meaning over time. When you give your full energy to these temporary things, you create unnecessary emotional weight. A calm mind learns to recognize this pattern and steps back instead of reacting immediately. This does not mean ignoring responsibilities, but rather distinguishing between what truly matters and what is simply noise. When you stop giving energy to everything, your mind becomes stronger. You begin to notice that many problems solve themselves when not overfed with attention. Some situations lose importance when you do not react to them. Some conflicts disappear when they are not engaged with emotionally. This shows that not every fire needs to be extinguished by force. Sometimes, not adding fuel is enough. Protecting your energy also means protecting your peace. Peace is not something that remains automatically. It must be guarded through conscious choices. Every unnecessary reaction, every emotional argument, and every mental overthinking drains that peace. But when you decide to step back from situations that are not important, you preserve your inner balance. You stop feeling mentally scattered and start feeling more centered and grounded in your thoughts. This mindset also helps you develop emotional maturity. Instead of reacting impulsively, you start asking yourself whether something is truly worth your attention. This simple question changes your entire perspective. It allows you to separate important matters from distractions. With time, you become more selective, more stable, and less affected by external chaos. Your life becomes less about reacting to everything and more about choosing what truly deserves your involvement. As this awareness grows, you realize that energy is one of your most valuable resources. It should not be wasted on things that do not support your growth, peace, or purpose. When you start protecting your energy, your mind becomes lighter, your decisions become clearer, and your emotional state becomes more stable, leading to a life where calmness is not occasional, but natural and consistent peace comes from self-control, not control over others. And this is one of the most important truths for building a strong and calm mind. Many people spend their lives trying to change the behavior of others, expecting people to act differently, speak differently, or treat them in a certain way. When things do not go according to their expectations, they become stressed, frustrated, and emotionally disturbed. But the real source of peace is never outside. It is always within. It does not come from controlling the world around you, but from controlling your inner reactions to that world. When a person tries to control others, they unknowingly give away their own peace. This is because other people's actions are unpredictable and outside of personal control. No matter how much you try, you cannot fully change how someone thinks, behaves, or responds. And when your peace depends on something you cannot control, your mind becomes unstable. Every small action from others becomes a source of stress, and life starts feeling heavy and emotionally exhausting. Self-control, on the other hand, brings freedom. It means taking responsibility for your own thoughts, emotions, and reactions instead of trying to manage everything outside yourself. When you focus on controlling your inner world, you begin to realize that peace is not dependent on circumstances. Even in difficult situations, you can remain calm if your response is under your control. This shift in understanding completely changes the way you experience life. Self-control begins with awareness. Instead of reacting automatically to what others do, you start observing your own emotional response. When someone behaves in a way you do not like, instead of immediately reacting, you pause and notice how you feel. This awareness gives you space to choose your response instead of being controlled by impulse. In that space, you regain power over your emotions, and that is where peace starts forming. Many people misunderstand control as suppression or silence. But true self-control is deeper than that. It is not about ignoring emotions or pretending everything is fine. It is about understanding your emotions and choosing not to let them control your actions. It is about responding with balance instead of reacting with intensity. When you master this, you no longer feel emotionally dependent on how others treat you. Peace becomes stable when it is built on internal discipline. If your peace depends on others behaving correctly, it will always be fragile. But when your peace depends on your own mindset, it becomes unshakable. You begin to understand that people will act according to their nature, their experiences, and their understanding, and you cannot change that. What you can change is your response, and that is where your true strength lies. When you stop trying to control others, your mind becomes lighter. You stop overthinking their actions, stop analyzing their behavior repeatedly, and stop carrying emotional weight that does not belong to you. This creates space in your mind for clarity, focus, and calmness. You begin to feel more relaxed because you are no longer fighting battles that were never yours to fight. Self-control also improves relationships. When you are not trying to control others, you allow them to be themselves while maintaining your own balance. This reduces conflict and emotional pressure. You communicate more calmly, respond more thoughtfully, and avoid unnecessary arguments. This creates healthier connections because they are based on understanding rather than control. As this mindset grows, life becomes more peaceful, not because people change, but because your reactions change. You stop expecting perfection from others and start focusing on your own emotional stability. You begin to realize that true peace is not something you receive from the outside world, but something you build within yourself through awareness, patience, and consistent self-control that slowly transforms your entire way of experiencing life. A calm mind creates a stress-free life because everything in life is experienced through the mind first, not through external situations. People often believe that stress comes from problems, responsibilities, or difficult circumstances. But in reality, stress is created by the way the mind processes and reacts to those situations. Two people can face the same challenge, yet one may remain calm while the other becomes overwhelmed. The difference is not in the situation itself, but in the state of the mind. When the mind is restless, even small problems feel heavy. Thoughts become scattered, emotions become unstable, and everything starts feeling overwhelming. In this state, the mind keeps adding pressure by overthinking, imagining worst-case scenarios, and replaying situations repeatedly. This mental activity creates stress that feels real, even when the situation is not as serious as it seems. But when the mind is calm, the same situation feels manageable. Clarity replaces confusion, patience replaces panic, and solutions become easier to see. A calm mind does not mean a mind without thoughts. It means a mind that is not controlled by thoughts. Thoughts will always come and go. But in a calm mind, they do not create chaos. Instead of being pulled into every thought, the person observes them and lets them pass. This creates mental space where clarity can grow. Without this space, the mind becomes crowded, and stress naturally increases. Stress often grows when there is resistance. When you mentally resist a situation, wishing it were different or trying to fight reality in your mind, you create inner tension. This tension is what we feel as stress. A calm mind does not resist reality in the same way. It accepts what is happening first, then responds with awareness. This acceptance does not mean giving up. It means understanding the situation clearly before reacting emotionally. A calm mind also focuses on what can be controlled instead of what cannot. Much of human stress comes from worrying about things that are beyond control, such as other people's behavior, future uncertainties, or past mistakes. When attention is placed on these uncontrollable aspects, the mind becomes trapped in unnecessary pressure. But when focus shifts to what can actually be influenced, such as personal actions, thoughts, and responses, stress begins to reduce. Naturally, breathing, silence, and awareness play a major role in maintaining a calm mind. When the mind is overwhelmed, even a small moment of stillness can reset the emotional state. In that moment, thoughts slow down, emotions settle, and perspective returns. This simple pause creates a gap between stimulus and reaction, and in that gap, peace is found. Without that pause, reactions become automatic and stress increases quickly. A calm mind also changes how challenges are perceived. Instead of seeing problems as threats, they are seen as situations to be understood and handled. This shift in perception removes fear and replaces it with clarity. Fear is one of the biggest contributors to stress. And when fear reduces, the mind naturally becomes lighter and more stable over time. Practicing calmness rewires the way the mind functions. It becomes less reactive, more patient, and more stable under pressure. Situations that once created stress no longer have the same impact. Emotional reactions become softer, and mental strength becomes stronger. Life does not become free of challenges, but the experience of those challenges changes completely. A stress-free life is not a life without problems. It is a life with a calm mind that knows how to handle problems without losing balance, without becoming overwhelmed, and without allowing external situations to disturb inner peace, creating a steady state of awareness that continues to grow stronger with time, shaping every thought, response, and experience into something more controlled and peaceful in the end. The true message of this entire journey is simple yet powerful. Peace is not found in controlling the world around you, but in mastering the world within you. Life will always bring situations that test your patience, people that challenge your emotions,